Welcome to Read the Book First, a book to movie adaptation podcast. Today we'll be talking about the 1996 partially animated film, James and the Giant Peach. Amanda is here to help us talk about this movie.
Happy to be here.
In last week's episode, I briefly mentioned that I technically have seen parts of this. I only remember a bits of when the little creatures were on top of the peach, and I remember it freaking me out enough that I, at daycare, decided not to watch the rest and went and did something else. So I sat down last week, and this was my first time watching this fully, and
Yeah, I was
I
gonna ask, did the animation make you sick?
it did not make me nauseous. It was slow enough it didn't.
Good.
For those that don't know, a lot of animation and stop motion stuff makes me nauseous, and it's a spectrum of nausea, and it's not like one studio versus another because I can watch all of Wallace and Gromit and Shaun the Sheep just fine. But like other animation from this era sometimes makes me nauseous. And like some parts of Spider, the Into the Spider-Verse movie made me nauseous. Like it's weird. But anyways, this one didn't. But also, I kind of was like kept having to remind myself to pay attention, so I wasn't really paying attention.
That's fair. I have a lot of nostalgia for this movie because we owned it on VHS. A lot of the songs in this movie were on like the Disney Hit Classic CD that we would play all the time. So, like, I, being me, was too freaked out by the sharks and the pirates and the thunder rhino to properly watch it when I was really little, but then I like kind of watched when I was braver. I watched it for reals.
Nice.
And so yeah, I have a lot of nostalgia for this movie, even though I didn't really watch it as a kid because it scared me too much.
And I knew that this movie starts with live action and then gets changed into the animation, the stop motion when the peach happens. So I knew that. But the one thing I didn't really know about this movie, and one of the things I actually really liked, is the set pieces that they used.
Hmm.
I I am someone who I love set pieces when you can tell they're set pieces, specifically in like kids and like nostalgic movies. Like if I were that's not actually necessarily true because I liked in shoot, what's that movie? It'll come to me in a second. It had what's her face? Emma Stone in it, and it was weird and it's Frankenstein-ish. It's
Poor thing, something like
Poor
that.
Things. Yes, Poor Things. Poor Things, which Amanda, you should not watch.
No, I should not.
No, but other folks, you might want to watch it. I loved it, and there are so many set pieces that you like. They're made on purpose, so you know that they're set pieces because it's like an other world almost. And I think that's what it is. I love when set pieces are meant to be otherworldly and like almost like a nostalgic, almost like old Hollywood, almost in a like on purposeful, campy, cheesy way. And I think because of the juxtaposition between the animation and the live action, the set pieces really worked for me here.
Yeah, I also think like this movie is very, very stylized in a way that it's so 90s, first of all. It's that very like I know it's not actually Tim Burton, but it's that very classic kind of like creepy gothic aesthetic, but
Yeah.
twinged with the like lightheartedness that goes so well with Roald Dahl.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
he was a producer, so like he definitely had his hand in the soup or the pudding, whatever that phrase is. Selleck, who was the director, obviously has a different point of view and style that is very similar and plays alongside well with Tim Burton's style, and obviously often gets confused with Tim Burton style, like per me last episode. Um,
I'm not a huge Tim Burton person generally. But I do like a lot of Henry Selick's work just because there's just that twinge more of sincerity that I don't always feel from Burton.
yes, I
Um,
agree.
And I like that a lot.
The beginning starts with James and his parents on this really beautiful coastal set piece, which I really enjoyed. It's like a very nostalgic. We're hearing a voiceover kind of setting up the exposition, not necessarily from James' POV, which makes it the set pieces kind of work in my brain because it's like, oh, it's a memory almost. The parents are a little bit more active in the movie. They have this moment where they're showing James this like travel brochure for New York City and the Empire State Building, and they're watching clouds together. So it sets up why James dreams slash travels to New York. It makes a lot more in-world sense. And I'm so glad that they had the parents die off screen because this movie was creepy enough for me that I was like, I don't need this happening at the very beginning.
Like you were saying, it was a really good choice to have it so that the parents have a presence and it's not because the way that they get killed is still so ridiculous. The whole rhino comes out of the zoo
Well,
thing.
yes, but
But
I
but
think in the
because we
movie
actually
it's
see
not true.
them, what?
I think in this version it's not really a rhino. I think it's just the ants. Like they imply it a lot, but I really think in this in like this version it's the ants. Because if you look really closely at the ornament on the car, the hub ornament on the car is a rhino.
Ah,
So I think the ants ran them over.
wow.
Yes.
And that would explain the whole like but the okay. So, for the sake of keeping this moving forward, I'm not going to argue with you about that. And instead, I'm going to point out the thing that one of the ants says, I think it was Spiker, says about like, oh, your father never paid attention to where he was going and blah, 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 blah.
It's ambiguous on purpose because they don't want kids to think that these ants are murderers. Like they're already scary and abusive enough for a kids
Hmm.
movie. But I do think there's that rhino on the ornament on the car. There's later on, we see the ants underwater. We see the rhino. We see like visions of the ants and the rhino in his dreams, right? So like there is a more connection. Like almost any time the rhino is mentioned, the ants are also mentioned, either visually or literally. So
Yeah,
I
and that's
think
always the
if I'm
ants
thinking
bringing them
really
up.
hard about this children's movie from the 90s, which is a reason I have a podcast that I'm going to think hard about random things, that is what I, as a 32-year-old adult, am gonna put together. Is it
I
what the
mean,
truth is? I don't know.
well, like I said, I'm not going to argue with you about it. I think it's a very interesting point of view. And I feel like it is a valid interpretation.
Thank
I
you.
just have a lot of logistical questions about like police and all these other things that don't matter because it's not that deep.
Correct.
Wild thing to have come out of my mouth.
I'm gonna make a clip of that and make a sound button.
It's not that
Just every
deep.
time it's not that deep, and I'll play it back to you. That'd be great. We have a montage of James doing chores and dealing with his abusive aunts, who are just gross and ugly and dirty and have like this gross makeup all over their face, and it's like ghostly, peely white. They did a good job setting these ants up to be visually gross.
And it's also really great because they're so much like that illustration, the illustrations of like that Quentin Blake did without without becoming like, yes, you're ugly because you have a nose. It's
Hmm.
more like, oh no, you're like actually grotesque and pale and like disgusting. It's great. I love it.
I also really like that they bring back the travel brochure throughout it.
Hmm.
It gives some logistical plot through lines throughout this weird movie that make it feel oddly more grounded than the book did. Like
Hmm.
barely. Like don't get me wrong, they weren't like, creating crazy new stuff. It just like it's like, oh, yes, this brochure that was his one connection to his parents was torn up and thrown outside by the aunts, and then that comes back later.
And it's also nice because it's such a great way of like having the parents be involved and be motivating without it sort of taking over the story. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like it's not like they have to think about their parents and that's how they feel all these things and yada yada yada. It's just legitimately a way to go through this story coherently.
I agree. And in the book episode last week, we talked about how so much of this book does not make sense. Check out our Patreon to listen to Amanda's Shark Report for more of that. In the movie, like you gotta ground it a bit more if you are making a children's movie. Like they're not making some experimental indie film. They're making a children's movie for Disney. They have to have some sense. James saves a spider and then he starts singing. And I don't know how I didn't know that this movie was a musical.
I don't either. It's kind of I mean, I do kind of get it because it's not like
Good.
okay, you and I are gonna fight later. But more to the point, it's not as well known iconic as a lot of the other music that appears in other things is.
Hot take. I didn't like a single one of the in movie songs. I liked the end credit songs when Randy Newman finally sings his own music because he composed all these. None of them got me.
You know, you're entitled to have that opinion,
Hmm.
and I don't think you are in the wrong for feeling that way. I have a very strong attachment to exactly two songs in this movie.
Well,
The
there's
My
like
Name
four
is
or five songs.
James. I know. I didn't say all of them were good. I did not say that all of them were good. I have a very
Yeah.
strong attachment to My Name is James, and I have a very strong attachment to We're Family. Um, but yeah, you're not gonna hear me argue with you in this particular moment in time
Hmm.
that all of the songs in this movie are good, because bless, they're really not.
No. And I am someone who tends to like cheesy musicals. I love kids musicals. Like this is like I'm not a hard critic when it comes to movie musicals and songs at all. Like I usually don't care enough to be a critic about musical songs,
Yeah.
but I think it's because I just had this dislike of this movie because it creeped me out just enough that maybe that just put me off the music, but all and part of me was like, oh, they're gonna sing, so this movie's gonna last 20 minutes longer than it could. Like that's also where my brain was. So I'm not gonna go rewatch.
Yeah, they sing in this movie, and you're sitting there and you're like, oh,
Oh,
okay, we're
okay.
singing.
We're hitting that runtime,
Um,
y'all.
yeah, and the thing is, like, it's very, very Randy Newman-esque, where the songs very rarely have any kind of like thematic coherence that's moving the emotional beats of the story forward. Like I honestly, I would say half of them do. The half that I like. But like there's that what are we gonna do when we get to New York? And then
That
we're
one I
eating the
hated.
peach song.
That one I hated, and I hated the eating the peach. Those two, like, I agree, those are the worst of the songs. But like, I was like, when I was watching this, I was like, this is silly. This is silly and not the way that I appreciate, and I'm a big silly kind of person.
Again, all of that is so fair, and I'm not gonna fault you for having that opinion. I'm just very attached because nostalgia.
That's fair.
And honestly, that's kind of all there is to say about that with that from that point of view.
Yeah. Um, the ants try to kill the spider, but James saves it and he's going outside to let it live outside. And then an old guy appears from the other side of the hedge. And just like in the book, James has not learned stranger danger.
At least they have this guy, like, I'm not saying that it's okay because it's not, but at
Hmm.
least they have the guy go, don't worry, I'm not here to hurt you. So, like, yes, James still has no stranger danger, but at the very least, it's like, ah, okay. Instead
Yeah,
of, oh my gosh, don't take things from strangers, you silly
child.
child.
True. He gets the little crocodile tongues and klezily
Oh, and they're
trips.
so gross, which they
Yeah,
should be, but like
I
I
did like
forgot how
that part.
they look like glowworm maggots. Like they look like glow painted noodles that move like maggots. It's the worst. I hate it. But like in a good way.
I really enjoyed that part. And we get them crawling all under the dirt. Aunts come out and they're yelling at James for doing nothing. And they spy the peach up in the tree and they are like, James, go up and get it. And he's like, it's a tall tree. And they're like, go and get it. So they're forcing this child to climb the tree. And then the peach starts growing and growing and growing and growing. And of course, the ants start selling the tickets, which again, it's like these characters are just bad people, so of course they're going to do this. And
Hmm.
I think of all the characters in the film, the ants are the most fully realized, um, to me at least. I think the bugs, I think there's like the ladybug I really enjoyed as far as all the bugs, as far as like a character.
I don't disagree. I just I think you're right that and I think a lot of that has to do with the actors that are playing the ants more than anything else, is they do a really good
Yeah.
job at like making them seem like actual people instead of whatever the heck is going on with the characters in the book.
Yeah.
Similar to the book, they like are selling the tickets, they're doing all the things.
Hmm.
James is like, maybe can I go play with the kids? And their
Hmm.
aunt is his aunt is like, no.
Yeah.
Well, they've already
They
left.
like they
Go
try to
clean up.
feed him like fish heads at one point. They make him go pick up trash, and then that's when he ends up going down to the peach. I like how they have a glowworm kind of like leading him towards the peach, and he ends up
Hmm.
eating it, or he falls and eats it. Like,
My vague memory is that he sort of like eats a hole into it and then starts crawling through it.
yes, but he does ingest a glowworm because that's important for later because later he coughs it up.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and I do like the transition that they did from live action to claymation as he's going through the Peach, the shadow puppets kind of vibe of it.
Hmm.
I thought that was awesome. And then he gets in the Peach, and then we're with these horrible puppets for the rest of the movie, and they creep me out. And they're not claymation, they're puppets. And it makes sense because that's a lot of joints for all those little bugs and like the stop action to animate it. You know, when I was a tween and a teenager, my cousins and I used to do a lot of stop motion because it was fun to do in the winters in Alaska when there's no sunlight. Um, and so I love stop motion because I love the process of it. It takes forever. And I was watching some behind the scenes of this movie on YouTube I found, and I found that part so fascinating. But I hated the puppet design and I hated the puppets, and they were just gross to me.
See, again, fair. I feel like you're very valid for having that opinion. I just disagree because I feel like part of the fun of it is that one of the things that I was actually going to say is I like how gross the puppets are because, of course, they're gross. They're they're disgusting little like bugs. And I
But
say
bugs
this
are
as somebody who
beautiful.
likes I say some this to somebody who likes bugs, but like they do capture that kind of vibe of the bug being gross. And I think that's really important because bugs are kind of gross. They're
Bugs,
really cool, but they're also gross.
it does match the like gross whimsy we talked about in the book episode of Roald Dahl. It does match the vibe of the story of Roald Dahl, of what they're trying to do. Like it matches their vision. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it's too gross for me. And
Yeah,
also, I think most bugs are quite beautiful if you look at them, like that cricket and like the centipede should have been more shiny and more like smooth. Like bugs
you're
are
not
gross when
wrong.
they're near my food, then they're gross. When they're not near my food, hey, they're living their best life and I think they're beautiful. But once they're invaded my space, then I'm not into bugs. That's my bug take.
I mean, honestly, that's a fair take. I feel like that's a fair take to have on bugs. Again, I understand. I don't think you're wrong. I think it adds to the kind of gross whimsy and it doesn't bother me enough. I also
Hmm.
didn't realize that they were puppets. That makes a lot of sense. I'm learning so many new things about this movie that I love.
And they were quite
Um,
big.
mhm.
Like the James puppet was probably the size of like I'm not good with guessing numbers. I'm trying to think of what kind of doll it was the size. It was bigger than a Beanie Baby, smaller than American Girl doll. What kind of dolls between there? Like a ragged, not Ragged Ann. Those are kind of bigger. Like a liter of soda. Like not the huge soda, but the thinner soda bottles you get.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
I get you.
They were quite large puppets, which makes sense because of how many legs they would have to move. Like every time that centipede talks, which he doesn't shut up, they have to move like half of his legs. Otherwise, it looks weird.
Yeah, I mean, you're not, again, not wrong.
And I'm
Not even a
convinced the
little bit.
reason they had him have a cigar in his mouth most of the time is not necessarily the character choice, but because if there's something in his mouth, that means they have to move his mouth less,
Yeah,
which is, I think, why they did that. And
yes.
then
I
ran with
mean,
the
you're
New York
you're
of it all.
almost certainly correct on that. I really enjoy I mean, I hate the song because it's a bad song.
It's a bad song.
It's not like a song that you could even point to and be like, this is why it's bad. It's just really boring.
Hmm.
And it doesn't add anything to the characters. It doesn't move their emotional journey along because they were already gonna leave. It doesn't
Yeah. The
do
peach is
anything.
off the stem. They've rolled over the aunts who are in the car, but alive. That's a change. The aunts are still alive. Why am I saying aunts? Who am I? The aunts are still alive. I do like the scene where the peach rolls over the town and hits that rooster who thinks the peach is the sun coming up. That was a good bit. Good
Yeah.
bit.
I think the whole little escape sequence is fun. And I also like I said, I think it was a real like we said earlier, I think it was a really good change to not kill the ants right away because then they continue to be this through line that gives this story a little bit more
You
coherence.
need some sort of threat, not just like, we're on a peach. Where are we going?
Yeah, like we don't need ocean road trip movie. That's it's just
Yeah.
not the vibe.
Yeah.
Not the vibe you think it's gonna be.
I do also like that the travel brochure comes back and James finds a magical map that shows him exactly where the peach is. Which I thought, just a fun little bit to like hold the hands of the kids.
Yeah. And I thought it was sort of a nice way to kind of like hint at the magic that was happening in the story too. Like I thought
Yeah.
that was a fun way to sort of cope with that for lack of a better word. 'Cause like,
Hmm.
I mean, obviously it's magic stuff going on, but this way it's like it's clear that that old guy wasn't just a freaking weirdo that gave James a drug trip. He gave him the map that his ants tore up.
Then we get the scene where they start catching the seagulls. I think this movie was the prettiest whenever they were flying over the ocean, right? They're
Yes.
not quite to flying yet, or they're still trying to catch the seagulls. But I think those bits, those big like ocean scenes, were my favorite parts of this movie.
Yes.
And I love the design of when they rolled over the fence, it created steps in a spiral around that peach. That is genius.
I like the way, and I know you said that you feel like the ants are the most realized characters, which they are, but at the same time, I do like how they kind of put more effort into differentiating the bugs' personalities.
Yes, they got rid of some bugs because there is no need for that many bugs.
Who'd they get rid of?
The silkworm.
Oh yeah, I kind of mixed her up with the glowworm in my head, I'm not gonna lie.
Hmm.
But anyway, so yeah, so they consolidated it and they also kind of made it so that I'm not going to pretend that it's like amazing characterization, but they do have something going there with the like, the grasshopper is the really, really intelligent one that's always like kind of helping James with the anxiety in the more logical way of like, oh my God, it's the rhino. Why would the rhino be flying? Like the spider is the one that's always making sure that he's getting recognized because she listened to the song about how he gets ignored and like all the time. And then like the centipede is just a braggart. Um, constantly, constantly, constantly. And then the ladybug is kind of more this comforting grandmother figure. And then the earthworm is the one that James gets to be brave for because he's constantly afraid.
Yeah.
And that's on reading too much into cartoons with Amanda.
I think they do a better job than the book does with separating the bug characters. I agree.
Hmm.
I mean, it's a kids' movie and their energy is to make this thing animated. They're not putting as much energy into the realization of these bug characters because, again, they're bug characters. They really only need to be one note because they're bug characters, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but they did do better, I think, than the book, absolutely. Then we get
But that's
to the
not
mechanical.
hard.
No, it's not. But then we get to the mechanical shark.
Yeah.
I mean, this looks cool, I guess. And like they're like, we can't make shark skin puppet, which I was like, whatever. I guess. Like, why would they make it mechanical? Like, why is there a mechanical shark that shoots torpedo things?
So I have a couple of answers,
Okay.
mostly to do with the fact that it would be easier to have one giant shark
That I get.
attacking rather than a whole
Yeah.
little flock of
That's a
sharks.
lot. Yeah, that I get.
Secondly, I think it also works well-ish with the kind of vibe of the movie, and it also makes the sharks more of a threat because the whole point in the book is like, oh my gosh, they're gonna bite the peach. Well, okay, but then once they got the peach out of the water, it's fine. But then this mechanical shark is also able to cut the threads, attack them, and like spear the peach, like and do all this other stuff. So it creates more of an action scene. I don't know why. I mean, I kind of know why, but I don't really. I have less questions about this mechanical shark than I did about the flock of sharks.
That is infuriating, but I'm also not surprised.
I think like the best way to put it is as long as you can kind of keep the logic of what the story is doing straight, and by we, I mean me, I don't have a problem. It's just when you try to like make it kind of like, oh, here's some real things that are integrated into this fake thing that is also not true, but somehow also true. And that's when I start getting like, wait a minute, wait a minute,
Okay.
wait a minute.
Okay, but this peach and these bugs in the world, this peach and these bugs are real and they are big, right? That they are real because at the end of the movie, even when James goes back to real life, the rest of the humans in live action accept them, right? They all exist in this world
Yeah, I have
together.
a theory about that, but yes.
Uh-huh. And so, uh-huh. And so
Sorry.
it's because like at first you're like, oh, this kid had a dream. Like that's what we're thinking at first until you get to the end. You're like, oh wait, all this stuff that they just did was actually real in world. It's not him having a dream adventure or like trying to escape. Like,
I mean, yes, but also I think it's okay to take some of this metaphorically. Like, did they really go down and like fight skeleton pirates? Who
I
knows?
didn't have an
Probably
issue
not.
with that, but I did have an issue with the metal shark. I did see online that some people are trying to argue that the metal shark was a creation from the ants trying to keep James
That's
there,
even
and
stupider.
I was like, that is a stupid take, but I'm not going to comment that because I don't comment things on the internet because
I
that's too
don't
much
either, but
pressure.
that is stupid.
It was.
Um, because like there's just a lot of there's just a lot of questions that that raises, right? So the ants have this mechanical know-how that they are constantly able to have a mechanical shark patrolling the waters and doing this and like trying to
Yeah, it
stop
doesn't
them.
make any sort of sense. It doesn't make any
But
sort of sense.
they're living in this tiny little cottage and are so excited by the prospect of making money off of this peach.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. But they the Peach and the gang are able to escape the mechanical shark.
Yes.
Then they start eating the peach, and that eating a peach song comes on, and I roll my eyes because I
Yeah,
have to sit
that's a
through
bad
this
song.
song. Uh-huh. And then James has a dream, and it's in different animation, this nightmare, and that was excellent.
See, I agree. This is one of the creepiest parts of the movie for me that I remember being so freaked out about because the ants like try to actually
Yeah,
eat him. It's crazy.
yeah. It's a creepy nightmare, but I think it works because this creepy puppet version is going to have an even creepier animated dream. It's good. You want to go deeper down. You don't want to go back a level,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And I
Yeah.
think like again, this movie just really does have that gross whimsy
Hmm.
and spades, and it goes beyond that too because it has that. It also like is nudging that line, and that's why what makes it so 90s for me is it's
Hmm.
constantly nudging that line of how much can we scare the absolute cud out of the kids.
They wake up to snow and ice, and they have somehow gone too far north, and they are in the Arctic of some sort, and they have to go find a compass, because how else are they going to find their way out of this disaster? And so the centipede, who has been bragging, is like kind of a coward, but then he wants to kind of like to show off, but he also wants to be like prove himself.
He feels responsible for the fact that they went off course because it's his fault. Um,
Yes.
so he dives into the ocean, and James and the spider go after him.
They go underwater and they can
Like
breathe
Jack Skellington.
underwater and they see Jack Skellington, yep, and some zombie pirates and they have this little battle scene and James and the spider are able to escape with the compass, but the centipede is down under because he sacrifices himself last minute to make sure that they survived okay. And then they're all sad for half a second and then suddenly the centipede comes out, but now he's in pirate gear. I kind of enjoyed this part.
You know, I love that for you. I think it's a fun complication that was added into the story. If I think
Way
about
better
it
than the
too,
Cloudmen.
oh my gosh,
Way
yes.
better than the Cloudmen, yeah.
Yes. I just have a lot of logistical questions that if I think too hard about, we're going to be here all day. And again, my motive for this movie, it's not that deep.
Yep. See, once they were like, "Oh, mechanical bull," I'm like, "Oh, okay, so nothing makes sense here. Cool. We're done." Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, once I got that part, besides, the giant peach, besides the huge bugs, besides the aunts getting ran over, but then not being dead, like, beside all that happened, once we got to the mechanical bull, I was like, "Oh yeah, do whatever. It's all happening."
Mechanical bull. You mean the
Sorry,
rhino?
mechanical shark.
Oh, okay. Then they like get on the way and they see it and they sing one of my favorite songs about how they're so close and isn't it so great? And they all care about each other. Yay. That's it.
Yep. They see New York City, but then suddenly there's clouds and a storm, and a cloud rhino appears. And James is yelling, "I'm not afraid of you!" At
He tells
said
all the bugs to
rhino.
like go out of sight and like go somewhere
And they
else.
go they go on they each grab a hold of a seagull string rope.
Yes.
And lightning strikes the peach. The bugs fly off while James and the peach fall. Then the peach lands on the Empire State Building, and in that fall, James coughs out the green bug, which then turns him back into live action James, which I think that was very smart. To like, how do you get this person who went from live action to puppet? How do you get him back? I think that makes a lot of in-world sense.
I've never caught that, but I mean, I did. Let me, I shouldn't say that. I've probably caught that before. I just didn't really register it before.
Yeah. Um, then the peach juice drips down the building, and I hated that. I'm not a goo person. I don't like goo. I don't like slime, and that really is like a nightmare to me.
The police are like, "Hey, child, who are you? What are you doing? Like this and this." And then the ants come out of nowhere and it kind
In their
of I
car,
in their car and the
and they're wet from
implication,
the ocean.
yeah, the implication is they drove across the ocean.
So is their car Chitty Chitty Bang Bang? And does it turn into a mechanical shark to get across the ocean and then back into a car?
Sure.
Because that's where my brain was like, how am I going to make this make sense? I guess that's how it makes sense.
Sure.
The ants try to like get James back into their custody, which is wild to me that they care that much to control him when he's already there. But the old man appears out of nowhere and says, "Let him speak." And then James tells the full story. And just as everyone's
Mhm.
not really believing him, the bugs,
Before that, though, first of all, the ants are doing the classic, he's lying, he's a liar, and he's just dreaming all these things. And then gives this really impassioned speech about how even if it is a dream, everything starts off as a dream and yada, yada, yada. And that's when the bugs appear. And that brings me to my theory, which is yes, all of this stuff like really did happen, but it wasn't until James was able to stand up for himself that the bugs were able to like come back in. And I don't know how that works. It makes sense in my brain, but now that I've said it out loud, I'm not sure it does. It's like
yeah,
power of belief kind of thing. Have to believe in yourself before you can believe in magic. It's James' ability to stand up to his ants and like put faith in the power of his own dreams that makes it so that everyone else can see this like dream family he's created for himself. Does that make sense? Probably not, but again, it ain't that deep.
it's not that deep. I'm gonna make a button for you.
Look, this
Um,
is a rare, you really have to like capitalize on this because do you know how often I bet you wish I would say that?
oh, I know. Yep. I'm I got plans. Yeah, so the bugs come down, everyone believes James. They tie up the ants in the
Oh
rope
yeah,
that they
because he
used with the
like
seagulls.
oh, to be fair, going back to your point a second ago about the ants like trying to get him, why they're trying to get him back, because they also want to get the peach back, and they can't. There's, I don't think that there is a scenario where they can make a case for getting the peach back without also getting their nephew back that doesn't make them look immediately super, super suspicious and weird.
Gotcha.
Um,
Yeah.
because seconds later, after trying to get their peach back, and failing because James is like, no, it's mine, they immediately try to kill him.
Yes. Yes. They do try. Uh
And then the bugs come in and scare them off, and it's kind of
yep.
cute.
And then James introduces New York City to all the bugs, and then the voiceover comes back, and we see the Peach Pit and James living in the Peach Pit and reading the story to kids in Central Park. And then we get the end credits that has the Good News song by Randy Newman, which was a good song because he's singing it, and it's just a end credit song. I love the end credits of the newspapers showing what all the bugs did post Peach adventure. And I like that was a fun way to end it.
I didn't actually watch the end credits.
You're missing out.
I've watched them before. I know what you're talking about.
The ladybug has a billion kids,
Yes, and it's very
and that
cute.
creeped me
And
out.
then the grasshopper, doesn't he like go into the orchestra or something?
Yeah. Yeah, that's how the movie ends. Do you want to hear some fun facts?
Yes, always.
So, according to the newspapers at the end of the movie, this movie was set in 1949, according to the newspapers.
Makes sense. Maybe the rhino was just bombs, like from the Germans.
I'll get to that. The actress who plays Sponge, Miriam Margolis, she also played Professor Sprout, very prolific British actress. She turned down the role of Trunchbull in Matilda for this movie. She was offered both roles, and this is the one she chose.
I kind of love that.
I'm glad because I think we wouldn't have had Matilda be Matilda without that very specific Trunchbull. In this specific stop motion for 1 minute of edited animated film that we see, it took them up to 1 week of filming. This movie took 3 years of actual production, not including all the drama that happened before production even began. 3 years of production.
Dang.
And it was a box office flop. It did not make up the millions of dollars that it took to. produced this. There was a version before this screenplay was written or this screen adaptation was written. There was an earlier version that they're working on that had it set during World War II and had James and his family having to leave England. Instead of sharks, there were Nazis going after the peach. And when they got to New York, his parents ended up being alive in that version.
Ew.
Uh-huh.
I'm glad they changed most of
Yeah,
that.
they changed most of that. And so in my head after reading that, I'm like, do we think the idea of a mechanical bull was like left over from some like World War II submarine shenanigans of an idea? There was a lot of other production drama before this version was ever put into pen to paper.
There's almost something kind of interesting there happening with like, during the Blitz and stuff, they had all the kids like evacuated from London. And there's almost an interesting version of this that makes a little more sense where James was evacuated from London with his terrible aunts for safety, and then his parents died in the bombing. And that's where like this thunder,
Rhino.
fear, and all this stuff comes from.
Yeah.
But again, it's
There's an
not meant to
idea
be.
out there. Yeah. Um, but
It's
yeah.
just
Overall, I did not enjoy this movie, and I hope to never watch it again.
that's fair. I really like this movie. It's one of my comfort movies, and I enjoy a lot of I just kind of enjoy it. I think the characters are fun. I think two of the songs are really good. I think it's kind of just a fun thing to sort of have playing as you're like doing something else. I enjoy it.
Amanda, is it a good adaptation?
Yeah, I think so because it makes a book that kind of is, as we discussed, not very good and makes it at least, even if it's not for everybody, makes it at least coherent and kind of enjoyable for like a certain audience of child.
Oh, I absolutely agree. Absolutely. It's a good adaptation. It takes the source material and it improves on it in most ways.
And it makes it suitable for the medium.
And thematically, it matches the books while still adding a little bit of new stuff. Yeah, I think it's a good adaptation for sure.
Hmm. Now, is it a good movie? Depends on who you ask and when
I
and
mean,
where.
a lot of people love this movie. A lot of millennials my age love this movie. And so this is one like one of the movies whenever like I went to like my film friend parties and they'd be all like talking about nostalgic movies. They'd be like, "Oh, what's your nostalgic favorite movie?" And like we talk about it. And like when this would come up, everyone would be like, "Oh, I love this movie." Da 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 da. And I was always like, "Okay, guys, whatever."
But that's kind of where that like that's the nostalgia factor for it too, right? Like, because
For
it's
sure.
impossible to, you cannot be objective about something that was a big part of your childhood.
Oh, for
It's
sure.
it's very difficult to do so.
Thanks, Amanda, for doing this with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. And thank you, listeners, for listening. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Read the Book First Podcast. Make sure you're subscribed to your preferred podcasting platform so you don't miss an episode. Check out our Patreon. It's linked below. Make sure you rate us 5 stars. And if it's not 5 stars, don't worry about it. Thanks for listening. And remember, read the book first.